Hi, and welcome to the SparcStart TA Leader Series, where we have the privilege of talking to some of the top people in the space about what they're doing, what they're thinking about, and what questions they're asking. Today, I'm thrilled to have Kate with us. Kate, would you introduce yourself for the audience?
Yeah, thank you for having me. My name is Kate Ryan. I am the Senior Manager of Employer Brand, DEI, and HR Communications at 1Password. And I've been here for about 3.5 years, and I've had the privilege of kind of bringing these three functions together as the company has grown and scaled.
Right. And Kate and I have a love of musical theater, but we won't go there. But we also have in common a non-traditional HR background, if you will. I came out of consumer packaged goods marketing, and Kate, you had a different background as well. Can you talk a little bit about that and how that's informed your approach to this? What does it mean not being an HR person now in a quasi-HR role, if you will?
Yeah. I think my background kind of in my corporate career started in sales. And I think through that experience, I learned a lot about how to be customer facing, how to listen, how to help people, kind of understand what their needs might be, how to create solutions with people. And from there, I moved into marketing. And that's where I kind of cut my teeth in employer branding. I was doing a kind of hybrid between consumer and internal kind of employer brand marketing. And throughout, the past 10 years, that has led me to sit on both marketing teams and people teams. And where I sit now on the people team at 1Password alongside, an incredible team that works with me, doing this work in employer brand and diversity and, kind of internal communications. We've kind of found a home in the people team that may not have historically existed where we are. We've all kind of come from these backgrounds that either may have been more focused on marketing. Some of the members of my team actually do come from a recruiting background. But I think what we've learned is there's this kind of need for new skill sets to join the people team as these functions are evolving and growing that go beyond what I would consider the very kind of traditional roles of recruiting in HR. And I think I've had to deal with a little bit of imposter syndrome in that, being like, oh, I didn't come up in this, conventional way through this path. But, what have I learned and what do I bring that comes from this experience building in other avenues of a corporate company, whether that's sales or marketing? And I feel like there's something to be said for the evolution of people functions, particularly in tech companies as they're growing and scaling. And I think the skills there's room being made for that haven't historically been there.
Right. And what are the skills you think that people are bringing that haven't been there or that have really helped you that you've seen a big
Yeah.
difference?
I think for me, it goes back to kind of what I did learn very early on in my career and as, a little business development representative and how I was learning, I think, to listen and read the room and help people understand what they are looking for by asking questions, not treating, I think HR functions are typically where people come when they have a question, when they need something solved, or when they're, probably in a position they may not want to be contacting this department. HR people roll their eyes sometimes. I have to talk to HR about that. I like to believe that this function that I'm creating and what I'm doing is like, we're almost trying to take more of a consultative approach with the business. So we're listening, we're asking questions, we're helping people identify where they may have a gap that they could use us for, whether that is through employer branding or a recruitment marketing campaign, whether that's in partnership with a DEI initiative, or whether that's the support that may be needed from an HR comms function. And it's, I think, less about waiting for people to come to us or us just going to the business and saying, this is how it's going to be. And finding that consultation that, I think I really did learn early in my career when I was learning how to sell and market.
Yeah, I'm amazed at employer brand groups who develop their EVP sort of in isolation and then go out to the business and say, here's what we're doing. And one of the things that you find with people who have been trained in sales and marketing is their love of research.
Yeah.
They want the data.
We want the data.
Yeah. But I love it when people go to recruiters and say, what misperceptions do candidates have? We may know perfectly well what we do and who we are and how we're different. So we don't feel like we need to say that. But from a candidate perspective, it may be different. So
absolutely.
Has the business been responsive to this?
Yeah, I think it's been absolutely. And I think it's been interesting. I joined 1Password when we were about 600 people. And now we've grown, we're over 1,000 people now. We continue to grow. We've been very lucky to be on this, journey of growth and scaling since I've been here. And I think what I've witnessed is an evolution of when you're smaller, it's easier sometimes to get people in a room and say, what do you think? And how could we do this? As you grow and scale, I think this consultative approach has to evolve because you realize you can't have 100 decision makers at any given table when you are rolling things out. So I think absolutely the business has been receptive, but we have also had to kind of figure out for what growth and size and scale we're at, what makes sense when we're making those decisions. So we're not doing it in isolation and saying, hey, FYI, this is what we're going to do. And this is these are our values. And this is how we're going to go about this. But, who are the key and kind of core people we want to bring in with us? And how do we make that decision, with a really clear kind of model of who's responsible and who's just consulted. And I think the formality of that has evolved, but the business is receptive, knowing that we have grown and scaled more than we were a few years ago.
And the other piece of it that I love when I see is whether it's the employer brand group or just TA that talks to the business about like, where are the holes in the process? Is it attracting people? Because TA, maybe because it's talent attraction, is so focused on the very front end of getting people in, and then not realizing, that we're losing people at this point, or, we have to go through this whole reference checking background that takes forever, and we lose people there, which is an incredibly expensive loss. It's like, where do you need content to help? Where do you need to connect with people? Have you done it? Are you focused mostly on attraction, or are you looking all the way through the candidate journey?
Yeah, I think was really helpful for me when I started was we have a candidate funnel, and you think about awareness all the way through to the conversion. You have the same thing in a marketing funnel, like where are you targeting your efforts? Is it top of funnel awareness? Is it actually way down at the consideration stage? Is it down at the conversion stage? And there was a bit of internal education that I got to do saying, you're very aware of a candidate funnel. Here's a marketing funnel. They're super supportive of one another. So my role in employer brand has to do with bringing in content at the right moments for you so that, as you're saying, where can the content help? What do we need the content to be? I think historically at 1Password, a lot of work was done on the top of funnel awareness because we did want to grow our brand presence and recognition. But now we don't have a huge top of funnel problem. We want to think more about the targeting throughout the funnel, and whether that's, specific recruitment marketing campaigns, whether that's content that supports, tech hiring versus sales hiring. I think this is actually when you get to be a bit more creative than, kind of just chasing that awareness piece of logo recognition. For me, it's a lot more fun to kind of say, what do you need? And how do we kind of get that to you and quickly? Because I think TA changes on a dime. We're opening new roles. We're closing a role. We don't always have the time to wait 4 weeks for an asset, And so we've had to kind of figure out what our own internal model is, which has been a fun challenge as well to get that content out the door.
And when you get that strategic, you not only get to be creative, you get to be effective.
Absolutely.
That's when you start to move the needle. I love that.
Yeah.
I could talk to you all afternoon, but we want to keep this short because we understand our audience is busy. But thank you for joining us. If people have questions or want to talk more, are you open to taking requests on LinkedIn if people reach out?
Yeah, definitely.
Great. Well, thanks. Thanks very much. Bye.